I don't really believe in the one-size-fits-all tools, like this agent is going to solve every problem ever, and sometimes the way that you use them and the way that you set them up really make a big difference.
Today we're going to discuss 3 agents that are actually providing value to us right now, and we're seeing as like a kind of big buy signal for the future.
One of the first things that we actually had to do was create a system to actually sort of distill the knowledge into training materials so we can give it to the agent, because if you give it a lot of unstructured spoken text, it doesn't know what parts are important, it doesn't know what parts is like someone asking a question. It's just a whole bunch of jumbled information. The AI will be my salesperson. I have yet to see great results of that. I've never seen a company's sales get worse because they have better oversight and better training.
A lot of people are trying to focus on how it's going to like replace humans, or how they want to replace like half of their job or have it do what they do. That's not the best place for AI. The best way to use it is to
All right, we're here for a pretty special episode with the Agentic Brain team. Jake, Joe, you want to say hello?
Hey, thanks for having us, Liam. Always good to be back on the podcast. These are always fun conversations.
How many times have I
had the first time?
How many times have I had both of you on? I can't remember.
I think just me for the most part, but you, Joe, and I mean, we talked, we hung out in New York, like, it's like, so I feel like we talk a lot, but then when we actually like record it, I think we've just done podcasts when it's been you and me so far. So cool to have Joe on here this time.
Glad to be here.
Excited to have the whole team, and today we're going to hop into a few different agents essentially. So we've had conversations over the past year and a half about we've had things in our business with the AI report, with what we do on upscale and what we're seeing in the market, what's like really building enterprise value and what we need as a business. And over kind of the course of these conversations, we've came up with like many different ideas and agents. And today we're going to discuss 3 agents that are actually providing value to us right now. And we're seeing as like a kind of big buy signal for the future. So I think let's go over the 3 agents first of all, very briefly, and then we'll jump into the first one. So I'll let you guys take it from here. The one that I'm most excited about is the training agent, right? This kind of working through the modules, working through these training materials, and like living within your Microsoft Teams, your Slack. So that's the first one, and I'll let you guys kind of introduce the other 2.
Yeah, so that's a really cool one. I'm excited to get into it. And then the other 2 we have, and I'll go into kind of like the reasons why we picked these ones. The other one is our sales call analysis agent that we use for a lot of sales teams. And then the last one is we call it like our speed to lead agent, but it's like a much more broad thing. It's essentially like your messaging agent dashboard that we use for like a lot of different client projects for any like agent to customer communication. But a lot of times the problem that we're solving with that is the speed to lead issue, forgotten follow-ups and whatever. But the reason that we chose 3 of these, and I'll kind of make the point as we go through them, that they're like 3 different, this sounds too broad, but 3 different types of agents. And we'll explain why. Like each one kind of has a different UI. It operates in a different way. The sales call analysis agent is like a background agent. The training agent is a more like interactive one with like, let's say you or maybe your employees or something. And then the last one is more like agent to customer. So we wanted to make that distinction between like, there's, I don't really believe in like the one size fits all tools. Like this agent is going to solve every problem ever. And sometimes the way that you use them and the way that you set them up can really make a big difference. And we'll go into kind of like the reasoning of, why our clients see the best success with those different use cases.
Sure. So with that, should we jump into the first one? This is the one I'm most excited about. So for viewers of this podcast and for readers of the AI report, for the past year and a half, we have been building out the enterprise side of our business. And what that really involves is us going into organizations. Sometimes we're training them on site, sometimes we're training them virtually. We usually deliver some kind of course of enterprise training, get people up to speed in 1 to 4 weeks, depending on what they're looking for. But we kind of found time and time again after we'd done that enterprise training is that people wanted something that they could go to all day, every day. And they wanted something that was permanent. They wanted something that would bring the material that we taught them and remind them and refresh them of that. So I kind of came to Jake and Joe and the Agentic Brain team what was this, maybe 6 months ago, 9 months ago, something like that.
Yeah,
And
something like that.
Super
around
long.
that, and we started talking about the idea of a training agent. So a training agent would live in your Slack workspace or your Microsoft Teams or anywhere else. It'd be trained on the data that we'd actually taught in that program in person. And then this would be used as a refresher, a reminder. It would ask you questions. It would give you a quiz. It basically help you retain that knowledge and not just learn it once. So it's a bit of an introduction as to why this is important. We've already seen feedback from our customers that this is something that they want, and this is something that we're actively pitching to people. So yeah, there's a lot of value in there, and yeah, we're seeing a lot of good feedback already. But I'll let you guys take the floor from here. Let's get hands on and see what it looks like.
Sweet. Yeah. This one's been a cool project. And I think it's one of those like the concept seems extremely simple and almost seems like something like, oh, couldn't you just send ChatGPT the info and then just have it teach everyone? And it's like, as we found through building this, there are like so many sort of like pitfalls almost that you would go there and so many like behind the scenes steps to get it to really perform like an actual coach, which is what you want. Like rather than, it's hard for a human to be on call 24/7 for all these different people and just answer any question that they have, much less teach them all at the exact same time if it's not a group class. So what we started with was about 15 hours of video from Arturo actually teaching the course. And so then you have like a spoken transcript. And if you take 15 hours of spoken transcript, it is a lot of data. And it's also said conversationally. So when you learn from like workbooks, textbooks, stuff like that, it's written out in a written workbook way. So one of the first things that we actually had to do was create a system to actually sort of like distill the knowledge into training material so we can give it to the agent. Because if you give it a lot of unstructured spoken text, it's like it doesn't know what parts are important. It doesn't know what parts is like someone asking a question versus Arturo teaching. Like it's just a whole bunch of jumbled information. And this is how it's always been up to this point with AI that it's just like garbage in, garbage out. Not that the content is garbage, but it needs to be properly structured and processed so that the agent can actually understand it. So we actually created a system that we can now apply this for, kind of the goal, like Liam was saying, is that this needs to apply to many different clients of theirs, and they might be teaching different things. So this one's a great AI course, but you could use it for like employee onboarding, any sort of training materials, any like improvement programs. I mean, there's a million ways you could use it. Anything that you would need to teach someone in your company, you could have the AI teach it to them. So the first step was actually designing a system to sort of, let's say, like distill the raw information into something usable. And then from there, we put that into a database. The reason I bring this up is someone actually asked me, they're like, well, couldn't you just give all the information, just put it in the prompt and then it would just do it? And it's like, we thought of that, and no, that doesn't work. That actually doesn't work. So, because it's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. And another mistake that some people make is they're like, well, the context window is big enough. Technically, it can, you could fit all of it in there, which this actually would exceed a normal context window. But let's say it did. The thing with that is the more that you, let's say, pollute the AI's context window, the less on course it stays. It gets lost. It's not really paying much attention. Like the more content in there, the less it pays to your exact instructions. So if you at the top have, here's exactly what I want you to do, teach it step by step, do the knowledge checks, all that. And then here's 800 pages of content. It's kind of lose the instructions and it's not very good. So one of the main things that we do this for almost every agent, there's a back end database because it's like, they can't, most of them don't work very well as like stateless agents, meaning that they kind of just operate from scratch, like pure blank slate every single time. Usually that makes them not as useful. So we designed a whole system. Essentially, it distills it, it breaks it down into the modules, it breaks it down into sections. We actually use some like RAG, as people are familiar with, or like vector searching in there to like find specific bits of information. So a lot of it is like, it's more complex than you would see on the outside. And kind of the reason for that is that we want it to really emulate what an actual coach would do. So it needs to stay on track, which it can do to the database. It's only actually getting, every time you message it, the exact information it needs. So rather than sending the entire course every single time, which will A, be insanely expensive, B, it'll make it go off track and the user experience just won't be great. It sort of like paces itself. It's able to stay on track. It knows what lab, what module, what section, everything that it's in. this allows us, it can like skip forward, backwards. It knows exactly when it gets to a knowledge check, which Joe will demonstrate as well. Those are also very important because it does more than just regurgitate the information. So that's kind of like the general sort of like, how we put it all together and the reasoning for that. And I'll kind of let Joe get into showing how it actually works, unless you have any questions on that, Liam.
No questions in that. I think both myself and the viewers want to see it in action.
Cool. Let's pull it up.
Wonderful. I will pull that up right now so we can see it. Alrighty. There we go. So I have kind of two different demo chats for this specific agent to just show it in different ways. And as Jake had said, this is a very interesting agent where it works through all the different labs, modules, and sections, but also partitions out between knowledge checks. So you have different sections where you're learning and then you're actually testing your knowledge. And one of the most important things about this agent is when it's testing your knowledge, it's not just straight up giving you the answers, it's letting you guess multiple times. It's giving you feedback on why the correct answer is what it is without actually telling you what that answer is. So it helps you actually figure it out as you go along the process. And I'll kind of scroll through some of these chats to show off a few different features. But when you start the knowledge check, it starts by simply introducing you and actually getting you into the system. And one of the most interesting parts of this whole process was being able to differentiate between normal user chats and actual system messages. If I scroll down to the bottom here, we can see that there's actually a little navigation menu where you can scroll through and click different buttons for how you want to navigate through the system. So you can either respond to the agent and talk to it and ask questions and learn about each thing, or you can go through at a more expedited pace and just basically answer through next question. And it enables both people who already know a lot about AI and the people who are still just learning and just getting into it. So it enables a lot of different types of people.
I feel like that's
As
one
I'm
of the
going,
really cool parts about it is that you can sort of people will get to exactly where they need to be. So Liam, this is one of the things you specifically requested, that if someone already knows, let's say, half the course, you don't have to sit there and retake that half of the course. You can actually advance right to the knowledge checks and get to exactly where you need to be. So it also remembers things about users, like where you are, your preferences. So it allows everyone, they could use the agent the same, but they can progress at different speeds so that they don't have to repeat information.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the beautiful things about it is it can be adaptive. If you've ever done, I remember my first couple jobs having to just go through this boring LMS of stuff that I already knew to be able to check things off. And that's exactly what we're trying to avoid here, right? It's like if people already know this knowledge, then that's fine. They can go on to the next section. But if they actually want to learn, then they can speak to this agent, they can pull in this extra information and actually explain concepts rather than just having you tick a box until you get it right, right? It's actually more interactive learning than anything else.
exactly. And connected to the idea that Jake had mentioned before, where we can't just essentially load all of the data into the prompt itself, the agent is able to dynamically work from section to section, to module, to lab. And when it's going through those different parts, it'll make sure that you don't skip the knowledge check. So it's actually testing your knowledge to make sure you can actually prove that you know what you know. So it doesn't let people just skip by it, essentially. But at the same time, if you're answering any questions wrong and you do want to skip a little bit faster, but you answer one of the questions wrong in the knowledge check, then it'll actually stop you and start explaining why you're wrong and teach you that information. So it's not just going to let you skip by, and it's going to really take care of you and actually make sure you're understanding what you need to understand,
Mm.
which I think is a really cool part of this agent. Yeah. There are a few different other features which I think are very interesting and very useful about this agent, which mainly being that it can actually research anywhere within the system, within the knowledge base, no matter where you are. So it'll keep track of where you are within the progress. But if you ask it a question about something within the last module, because you want to refresh yourself on some of that foundational knowledge, it'll go back, find that information for you, and bring it up back to where you are without messing up its order and without getting distracted, which honestly, that's something that not a lot of humans can actually do. So
let's maybe test that. Let's go down into the messaging and maybe ask it to give us a brief overview of what we covered in the last module, for example. If we could just put that and just
Sure.
message it.
So I'll go down into the other chat for that one, and I will have it give me a synopsis. A summary of.
I think one of the cool things too, and this is a point I was actually talking to Melvin and he brought this up. And another question, he was like, well, couldn't you just use like RAG for this? Which is essentially for people that aren't super technical. It's just the typical way that you allow AI to search through a lot of information. Like it's better than keyword search because it actually uses like vectors for like similarity search. So if you have a training manual and it has, 100 pages and you're like, how do I do this exact thing? It could be really good for that. But there's a sort of trade-off, and this is why we use both, because that does not sort of like pace it through. Like it doesn't go like one by one by one. It's like needle in a haystack. You're just finding a specific part. But if what we want to do here is actually have it go section one, module one, module one, section two, so on and so forth through the labs and modules. But we also did add a sort of like RAG feature here for what Joe's just showing now, that it can actually go through. Like you could just say like, what's natural language processing? And even if it's not on that exact section of that exact module that discusses it, it can then do that similarity search and find a collection of all this information about it and provide you that curated answer. So it's important to use both. But in this case, that's why you would sometimes use one and not the other. In this case, actually, both are pretty useful. But go ahead, Joe.
Mhm. No, that's a great point to add. Thank you for adding that. Um, After I just asked that question, it essentially did exactly what I've asked. It said which current section I'm in, the knowledge check for this one, and it goes through some of the basic summarized information through that last section. So I can go through, ask some more questions and expand on it, or I can just continue on with the conversation. And something that I do want to point out, which is an interesting feature, is the status message. It's a small thing, but it's very important for user experience. Where if I click one of these buttons, now you can see at the bottom, it's actually cycling through some basic messages. And although they're just very simple things, it's a default animation, this is a very important thing for user experience because it brings that experiential time to the actual answer down. When you have something happening, you know that it's actually working, you know that it's going through it. But if you have no response, then you're just kind of lost. So, although it seems small, it's a very powerful feature to be able to show people that it's actually doing what it's doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same if you're using like Perplexity, for example. It shows you like the logic that it's going through, right? It's like, here's how I'm thinking about this problem. It's something simple that keeps the user engaged rather than navigating off.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think also for the sake of like, we always had something like that, like in typical AI tools, like let's just say Claude, OpenAI or something, you usually either see it thinking, so you see it streaming its thoughts, or outputting the message, streaming that way, or just like a status of like searching the web, whatever. But it's so much better than like if people don't know, like if they wait for 30 seconds with no status, they feel like it's broken, they feel like it's slow. But even though you're not changing the speed, it changes the user's perception of like, oh, it's not frozen, it's not broken, it will be done soon, whatever. So it's like such a little thing, but makes a huge difference. We use it in almost every agent we build.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's a great point. And once again, it's one of those things where it just kind of reinforces to the user that something's actually working. As you had said, sometimes it can take a little bit longer to respond to one of the messages. And especially with AI, where it's not something that's completely deterministic, sometimes it's slower for more complicated questions and it has to do more research. Sometimes it's really quick. But having something to let you know that it's still working, it's still thinking, it's doing what you asked it to do is a very important user experience feature.
Absolutely.
Another thing to add of why, so this one specifically, I was saying we have three different types of agent here. So how this one would be obviously is like employee, let's say, yeah, employee or person in your company to agent. And so then the reason why we do this one in Slack and or Teams, we'll actually be moving a team to Teams, but Liam and us both use Slack, so it's just easier to test in there because we don't natively use Teams. But it can work in either. And kind of the cool thing about that is that it's like for companies, it's like they're already using it. So if you can just integrate it into there and it's essentially a plugin, it makes it very easy. You don't have to tell, especially if you're teaching it to a lot of employees, you don't have to be like, okay, every single person, go to this site, set up an account, go here, set your da, da, da. It's just like you can add it. Like the admin can just add it to their teams. Like you're supposed to be taking this course, set it in there, and then be like, okay, click on the training agent right here, and it's going to walk you through the whole thing. It starts off by like asking about yourself, your preferences, and it remembers all that to customize the experience. But this is a lot of times we'll choose something like this if it's native, that it's like they're, just their employees, like it's an internal tool. They want to roll it out to several employees and they want it to work already in a tech stack that they're using. So that's, and it's a
Mhm.
can be a great place to use them as well, because as you can see, we have native features like the buttons, the drop down menu, stuff like that. That's in Slack. You can just add those. So it makes it very nice to control. And we didn't have to develop Slack.
I mean, for us, like the future of learning kind of is self-paced, it is personalized. And I think we're seeing this as well as like people don't want to switch their context window all the time as well, right? So the more that we can integrate within where someone works, the better. The beauty of this is like if they have 10 or 15 minutes spare before a call, then they can refresh the memory in that. If they actually need some context before a call, say for example, they're going into an education call, they need to be reminded of the frameworks that they learned in this class before they talk about it in the meeting. Boom, I can go in and just ask this before I join a Slack meeting or a Microsoft Teams
Mhm.
meeting from the same dashboard. So that is the beauty of this. I mean, this is like the first iteration of it, right? Like, obviously, we went through working on this. This is what we've got just now, but there's so many opportunities as this kind of rolls out. It's like we roll out version 1, maybe version 2 is more voice, maybe version 3 is a blob on your screen with an avatar that you speak to, right? It's like we're only at the very beginning of what this could look like. Now that we understand how the brain works and how to upload the information, how to get this agent to progress through it. It's like how do we add extra features from here as well and make it even cooler essentially.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the progress that we've made on here, and also the fact that it's like it'll be reusable. Like our system to actually convert the course content is there was another kind of similar project that we worked on after this where it's like they used a PowerPoint instead of like spoken transcripts, and they needed a workbook generated and also test questions. So we kind of used a similar strategy to actually parse through, because it's a super long PowerPoint. And again, it's not really written in workbook content, which is what they wanted. Rather than the agent teaching it, they want an actual workbook for people to go through. So we can kind of apply that in a similar way. And so this whole system can actually work in all of those different areas. It's like you could convert it to workbook content, then have AI teach you the workbook and also ask you the questions and determine if they're right or wrong or whatever. Or if you just want something to kind of like mass distribute, which is, like what they did, then it's like you can simply, they just have this quiz software. They've always used it. They upload the questions. They like the workbook format. So it's just based on preference. But it's like we can reuse these same systems and you could make training content for about anything. Like I was saying, it's like you could do it for employee training, like, onboarding, anything that you want to teach them. So it can be very universal and follow the same sorts of principles of just like pacing through it, going step by step, and so on.
Absolutely. Do we have any more features on this to show?
Um, no more major features other than those basic questions. There is one other small thing which I want to show, which is within this navigation section. Of course, you have moving to forward in sections or restarting them. Same thing with modules and labs. But we can also show the current progress of where we are, and we can even show some supplemental knowledge for essentially extra podcasts or extra information about what you want to see, and these are dynamically kept. So whenever I click that button, it'll actually show where I currently am, but it isn't constantly in your vision, kind of obstructing things. So it's just there whenever you want to see it. And once again, that's completely dynamically pulled. So no matter what course we put into here, no matter how we switch up the content, that's just gonna work for whichever one we put in there, which is nice.
Yeah, I think everyone needs that, right? It's like if
Mhm.
I'm working through a training module, I want to know where I am and how far I am through
Exactly.
it. It's a necessity.
Yeah, 100%. And the last thing I wanted to mention about this agent, which I feel like we kind of touched upon it between both you and Jake, is the fact that it's incredibly dynamic. Not only can we switch out the information within the agent and we can switch out what actual knowledge people are being tested on and what they're being taught, but we can also change the interface where this is going to be working with. Slack is a wonderful interface and it really works well for those chat-based systems. And this really is a chat agent where you talk to it back and forth and it teaches you. So being able to switch it between different programs and having the freedom to choose where we want to work not only lets us be able to do what we want to do better, but enables the client to work in the location where they're already working in and be able to not waste time having to learn something new, but just do what they need to do, which is really cool.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Um, well, hopefully we can have some feedback from this from people. I'd love to see some kind of comments down below what people think. And I'm sure we can kind of set up calls to give people a trial of it as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Oh,
definitely
man.
ready for that.
Shall we move on to agent number 2?
Sure. Cool. Let me
So
pull it up.
let's give me a bit of a briefing to agent number 2. First of all,
Give me 30 seconds and I'll give you the secret to effective AI implementation. If you like the AI report, you already know what we're about. Cutting through the hype and helping leaders actually use AI. At Upscale, we're more than a newsletter or even this podcast. We work with global organizations like the Society for Human Resource Management and Fisher Phillips Law Partners to train entire departments, boosting efficiency and productivity by an average of 41% in just weeks. If you want your company ahead of the curve instead of chasing it, book a free strategy call at upscale.com. That's UPSCAILE.com. Schedule today and future-proof your tomorrow.
Yeah, so this one is our sales analysis agent. And so we use this a lot with various sales teams, any of them that are doing, phone calls. We even do it with some gym clients that have like in person because they do a lot of their stuff in person and they actually use like AI recording devices. So it's actually pretty cool how it can work, kind of universally. Like as long as you're able to record it, it can then process it. So what we do, and this is kind of because, my business partner, Frank, is also like a sales trainer. And so some of these clients are also like his consulting clients. Plus, it's just like, he's done sales for over 20 years. So it's like he knows all the processes. So we're able to take that and sort of distill it down into like, very specific instructions for the agent. And it can pull those out of the call and give you a full report. So traditionally, what we see is either with clients, either they have a sales trainer that they're like, well, I listen to some calls sometimes as I can, and then I coach the people on it. But it's like, dude, if your calls are like 15 minutes or something like that, it's like you could listen to 4 in an hour. Plus, it's like if you're a trainer, you have to train so many people on the team. And then more commonly, what we see is no one actually does this job because it would take way too long. But this is one of those things that I kind of want to drive home on. Like, this is how AI could be used in sales very well. Like, we literally see, like, so every client we've implemented this for has seen positive results. Their close rate has improved because they're able to train them better. A lot of people will come to us and usually smaller companies, maybe their lead flow is not as good. And they're like, I just want AI to sell for me. I want an agent that just does sales. And it's like, dude, if I had that, A, I wouldn't be selling it. B, I would be Elon Musk. I'd be a billionaire. It would be out there selling everything you can imagine for me. It would just do it. So it's just like, that's the thing is a lot of it takes like human relation, conversations and stuff that it's like sometimes AI doesn't excel as much in those areas. This use case, on the other hand, is like helping people because you can see very quickly, and I'll show you here in just a second. Don't want to ramble too much, but it gives you the full report. The sales trainer can easily go through. It can see actually statistics of how each salesperson is doing, how they improve over time, and look at a brief overview of the call. So they could review maybe 20 calls in an hour and give you really good feedback. So I will get right into it here.
I mean, I'll give a bit of context as well whilst you're pulling up your screen too. Like, a big part of our business is obviously the newsletter is the thing that we've been doing for the longest time. And the majority of our revenue from a free newsletter comes from advertisements, right? It comes from people come and place ads. So I have a partnerships manager, Kyle, and he handles everything on that side. So he'll be taking anywhere from 5 to 10 calls a week where he's hopping on the phone with someone from any one of our sponsors, IBM, AWS, Zapier, HubSpot, whoever, right? And for him to try review 5 to 10 calls per week and understand What were their pain points? Where did he go wrong? How was this person thinking about it? Did I get the framing right? It's basically impossible. I'm asking him to double his job so he can improve it. And I don't have the time as a business owner that runs multiple different parts of our business to go and review them myself, right? So this is where AI can come in really handy. I think one of the things that AI is best at and what AI is known for is pattern recognition, right? And that really, I feel as if that's what we're kind of talking about here is that pattern recognition and what could be done better, where are we going wrong, what are the words that we can use, what is the tone, and ultimately, like, we all want to increase our sales, right? More revenue is usually better for the business. So something like this it's a no-brainer. So I'll let you guys hop into it from here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you have a sales team, there are very few clients that we have that have a sales team that wouldn't benefit from this. Probably none. And yeah, it's really great for that. Just getting the very brief overview of everything, and then you can always dive into more details. So, what we're looking at here is we love to give people the charts and graphs. Like, they always want to see that. They want to see how are people doing. We can see like over time, like have they improved, have they declined. This is all test data, by the way. So these people have not actually declined. They're made up people.
Whoever's in orange, Taylor Ritchie's big terrible.
Oh my gosh, I'm firing Taylor after this call for real. She's garbage. Uh, you can also see daily calls per person too. So this is another. I mean, this is an important metric. A lot of sales teams is like you got to make this many calls per day. So you can see, are they actually making that many calls? And then how are they doing in those calls? Are they like, they make 15 calls, but they're all garbage down here? Or are they actually really consistent? You can see your top salespeople. You can actually see what's really cool is like how they're improving because of the tool. So it's like you can start, okay, here's day one. And as I start using this tool to coach them better, I can actually see how they're improving. And then
What's you measuring as their rating here? I'm assuming that the client has some sort of customizability of like I'm rating them based on an NPS score or deals closed or follow-ups done. Like, is that customizable?
it is absolutely customizable, and we'll show you exactly how you do that. And mainly the thing here, this, especially because it's test data, we can track close rate, but we would need a CRM or something like that. Um, but this is just tracking the actual metrics in the call of are they doing what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. And this will make more sense in this next part right here. So here's where we actually see the logs right here. So we can see the total score and the call title. We'll just open up this page. So we can see who the salesperson was, the customer's name, um, and then we can also set to review. So this is very helpful too, because sometimes you could be like, this is a great example call. So a lot of times sales trainers will do this. They'll take some really good calls and some really bad calls, and they coach on those, and they show you, here's exactly what you all need to be doing. Here's exactly what you do not want to be doing. So you can mark these for review to come back to them later. We have a calls type, which we'll get to here later of how we set these types. The stage and the outcome, these are pretty standard. They're just based on how your sales process works. And then the product. So what we have first is just like a quick AI feedback. Then we have some like important notes, like here's the most important things. So kind of the idea here is we want to get more granular. We want the quick overview towards the top, and then we're going to get more into very granular stuff. So this is we customize it to each company's sales process because it's like how this one's a coffee company. So how we sell coffee is going to be a lot different than how we sell B2B SaaS. There's, very different. And everyone has like there might be specific offers or specific things about their product they want to mention, along with just best sales practices. So we have the section scores at a glance. So we break it down by sections. We have like the opening, qualification, discovery, product knowledge, so on and so forth. Again, more of an overview and showing like how they did on each specific section so you can see where they need help. Here's the full details. Greet yourself and like here's essentially the rule. Here's what you're supposed to be doing. And then here's if it happened or not, and then it ranks it out of how many points that you give it, and I'll show you how to give it those later. So it's just going by like these are the things that are important to this client within this call, and then showing how they did in each part. So you could see like, okay, she looks like she did pretty well. It goes a she, right? Or whatever, Casey. So we're at 81%, like pretty good call. But you might be like, okay, well, which parts were they really struggling on? Okay, the opening and rapport. Let's go down. Okay, closing and next steps was not okay. There was no follow-up confirmation. Okay, that's really a bad one. Like you always want to set a next follow-up sort of thing. So you can see the exact parts that need help. Then down here, we have the recommendations. So these are the AI recommendations based on how the person is doing. So this is raw score. Here's just how you did and why you did something or didn't do it. Here's what you should be doing and what it can kind of like analyze based on how the call went. Points out your strengths, and then just general comments as well, like anything else that maybe isn't necessarily a strength or a recommendation. So this is kind of what you want at the bottom. And, sales trainers could actually go ahead and use these and say, okay, here's all your recommendations and sort of compile these for each call. So this is what it does in like under a minute for each call for on average, like a 15 to 20-minute call.
I think the power of this is like open that again for me, but it's how granular you've got in that. So with that, we're looking at, for example, like this opening section, right? Is like set an agenda for the call. It's something really simple, but it does make a huge difference to that sales process. And then if we go down to the bottom here on this example, that last bit of feedback, the last thing I didn't do is go up a little bit for me, onto the last bit of the feedback, their professionalism, compliance, and closing and next steps, right? So confirm follow-up details, who, what, when. So we can see that whoever this person was, she or he struggles with setting the tone for the conversation and being a bit more forward and being a bit more aggressive, right? So what we're seeing from this kind of like granular feedback is we're able to identify like what behaviors are going wrong here. This person is extremely professional compliant, but they struggle with setting exact things, right? This person struggles with being bold enough to be like, here's the thing, here's the agenda for the conversation, and here's our next steps. Right. So really what we're uncovering is like what are the behavioral flaws in someone and how can we kind of fix that with our salespeople as well, right? So this person might need a bit more courage, they might need to get a bit more bold, and that can be fixed, right? It's like there's exercises that we can do for that outside of a sales environment that'll help with that.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why, exactly why we structured it. I mean, you nailed it there. Like, we like to do the very broad overview here because a lot of times you have good salespeople and let's say like new salespeople or something like that. Like people who've been there a while, they're always going to do like 90, 100. Like they're not just going to forget to set a follow up because they've been in sales so long, they know how to do it. So you could kind of just skim those, and be like, okay, they got 85, 90, 85, 90, whatever. Okay, cool. The reviews look good. I don't have many comments, but it just makes it so much useful because, you don't need to really coach them much on this middle part because she did fine. What you need to coach is exactly what you said, those sorts of things. So if you're a sales trainer, it's like I could review, like, especially if I'm doing a quick skim just to see like what parts do they need help in. I can skim this part and look through these in like a couple minutes or like probably like less than a minute per call. So I could go through like 20 like this in maybe an hour before I actually talk to that person. And I'll just start to see like, okay, what are the similarities? Where are you really lacking? Maybe it's always here, or maybe sometimes it's throughout the call. And it's like, well, you're inconsistent. If you just consistently did the right things, you do a lot better. So, yeah, I really love this one. I think it comes out so great. And I will go over here. Let's just go to the rules here and I'll let Joe get to the next part. But this is how we actually add them in. So this is how you customize it. So again, you can make this work for any sales process, any company, any sales process, as long as you can record it and transcribe it. So what we first have is like what we have up here, the scoring type. So a lot of our clients, they have different sorts of sales teams. So this, we did B2B sales, B2C sales. Sometimes it's like inbound leads, outbound leads. Sometimes they're selling different things, whatever. A lot of company, they have different types of sales teams. So we like to break it down. So you can actually add a lot more different sales types. So it doesn't just work for like one type of sales call. We've had clients that have wanted to use it for customer service as well. And so again, you're not selling anything. So you wouldn't need to like say set a follow-up because hopefully the issue's just resolved then. So it can grade it in all sorts of different ways. So for this, we're going to break it down by category. This one's B2B sales. So here's the general name of the rule. This is what the AI will see of just like, here's what they actually should be doing. And then a parameter, we usually do like must say, if relevant, and must not say. Because sometimes it might be like, look for upsell opportunities if the client's happy. Well, what if it's a new client? We don't want to down vote them on that or rank them lower because they didn't do something that wasn't relevant. So that's how we split those up. Then we have the scoring metrics too. We can either set these to like pass or fail, like 1-0, or a lot of times like how well they do it. Like how well did they set the agenda? Like did they just go, Okay, we're just gonna walk through this AI agent real quick. Or did they actually set the agenda? Um, and then these are just kind of like where it happens. So as I showed you there, remember the breakdown of like what parts of the call. So then we just categorize it by that. So this is how we add the rules. And again, you can like activate these, deactivate them, you can change them, you can put them in really but yeah, however you want. And then we also split it. Then here we have the B2C type of sales. So then this is how it's going to create this call. So that's literally like what you were asking before is like how does it do that and what does it rank them on? Those exact rules and those scores that you give it. So you can totally choose if you're like, you know what, setting the agenda is not as important or something, or this is a customer service call. We don't really care about that. You could just set that as a really low score, and it won't really affect it too much. So that is what makes it. Yeah, you can customize it however you can possibly imagine. And I'll let Joe go to this next part because there's a few more things that he's added to here, which have been like custom client requests. Like after they used it for a while, they're like, "Hey, can we do this? Can we do that?" And that's the kind of the cool things about making these custom is we actually can add those for them. So I'll let him get to that.
Awesome. So yeah, this I'll just say is my favorite agent. This one I absolutely love because it's so dynamic. This is the most like a full-on program that anything I've worked on personally. And it's very interesting because as dynamic things go, it's fully dependent on how we set it up, but then it goes on to the customer. So they can kind of customize it towards whatever end they want and to actually refine it as they're using it, which is very interesting to watch in process or as they're actually doing it. I will start off by going into the actual salespeople themselves and kind of showing off that this does actually navigate per person. This rates all the calls for those people, and you can choose whether those people are going to be active or deactivated. So you don't always have to have it analyzing everyone within your system. You can choose who it's going to actually analyze. Within here, as you can see, it has a little bit of data just summarized for their average performance and some of their general information for how it actually keeps track of them. But if you actually go into there, you can see that there's a little bit more information in here and even other fields that you can view. So you can filter it to see just the calls that are related to them. You can do just the ones that had been tagged for the need to review, which Jake had mentioned earlier, or the same thing with great call example. So if you're ever in a review with one of your employees and you want to bring up specific examples for where they did well or where they might need some improvement, that's right there in their system automatically tracked.
Mm.
With the
Why?
rules them sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm curious. With all this that you're building out, why Notion?
So Notion provided a really easy to use dashboard on the system, which is free for any of our customers to use. So there's no objections towards them using it, but it keeps it completely dynamic. So whenever we have a different version of this for a different customer, we can customize those individual versions for them without needing to drastically change anything, but also giving us the freedom to change anything that we want to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, for example, some of our clients have this products section where it'll actually keep track of different products that they keep track of on their sales calls and mark them accordingly. So you can see which ones are talked about more often, less often, and just being able to find certain calls more easily. But some of the other customers have no need for that feature, frankly. So Notion enables us to do that very easily and create multiple different versions that we can manage all of them by themselves, but also keep them aligned together so they're harmonious, if that makes sense.
Sure. And then I have another question. So with the transcripts, are they being automatically uploaded? I'm assuming this will work by pulling in from Fireflies or Granola or one of these other note takers. Like how exactly does that part of it work, the intake?
Mhm. Yes, exactly. So we can essentially connect it to any program that we can actually connect via the API. A lot of our customers use things like Twilio, Ring Central, or something like that. Fireflies is another great example. And any form, we can get either the MP3 file of it or the transcript of it, then we can put it into the system. Just because this is the template one, this one doesn't actually have the full transcripts in it, just because of the template version and because we can't show the client sensitive data, of course. But yeah, the transcripts are always uploaded. And if we get the recording from their system, then we usually upload that recording file as well. So they can listen to it as they go along with the page.
Awesome.
Want to add a little bit more in here because that was a good question of why Notion and what I want to cover about each agent. So again, this is a different type of agent. We would call this like a logging dashboard. And Joe already kind of specified this, but there's a specific reason for it. And it's because like, so this one runs in the background. It's not really a chat agent. You don't need to like, it's just running. Like it's when a call happens, it does it. And some agents work better in best in the background. We actually see a lot of agents work best just running in the background because it's like you don't want to have to go in there and tell it, oh, review this call, give me this output, whatever. You just want the data there. And again, you don't really need to go back and forth with it because rather than chatting with it, you would just change the settings. It's more of like a settings one. That's its input, not a chat message, just the input. So that's how you could change it. So it makes it a lot easier to see because I don't want to see a million chat messages and I got to scroll through and look for where is this call? Where is this person? It's nicely laid out in all of these logs. And for a lot of companies, it runs hundreds and hundreds of times per day for the amount of salespeople that they have. So this is a really great way to visualize it. Another reason is that so Notion is it's easy to work with. You can pretty much customize the page how you want. It has databases. It has the charts and graphs already. It already has like basic things like an auth and user login. So you can simply make a free account with your Google or Microsoft account. It's just like a one-click login. So this is actually a much older system back when it's like coding was a lot harder, a lot more expensive. It took like a lot of devs to do. So making these simple dashboards would actually significantly increase the timeline of the project. And this for clients works just as well. They get the same end goal, and it's actually a very nice way to present all the data. But with more modern stuff, a lot of times what we'll do, just depending on the use case, is just like develop our own UI for it. You just give it to Claude Code. Here's what it does. Here's the input, so on and so forth. It's a bit more complex than that to get a good one, but you get the picture. It's much easier as AI has actually gotten better. We've kind of changed how we do things from time to time. But I will still stand by Notion is a great way to display for this kind of agent, and that's why we chose this UI for this one.
Sure.
Mhm.
I mean, I love Notion as well.
And
So
s- yeah. A small addition to that as well is, I mean, what you had just said, Liam, also backs that up where a lot of clients tend to really like Notion because of how user friendly it is and how many capabilities it gives. A lot of other softwares, we could build the agents within those, but it's not as easy for the user to actually get in and start doing what they need to do within the system. And Notion meets that perfect middle point for us, where it gives us the full ability to create what we want to create. And just from a developer standpoint, it's an amazing tool to use. It makes our jobs a lot easier compared to some other tools. But at the same time, for the customer, it makes their experience a lot more fluid because it's backed by a massive company that's incredibly reliable. They have a lot of history and they have a really good program. So yeah, it's a good system, and I definitely prefer Notion when we can. But as Jake had said, for some of the newer stuff, building a more custom dashboard can be cool as well.
oh,
Yeah. For to add even a little bit more to that, another thing that we've really found for people that are building these sorts of things or using AI and stuff, when you work, and this sounds obvious, but if for people that don't build a lot, it might not strike you immediately. When you build with like commonly used modern tools and stuff like that, like Notion, it is at least twice as easy than a lot. Sometimes we have companies with like an old CRM that someone cooked up in their garage in the 90s. Nightmare experience. It's going to make it, it lowers the quality of the whole system. It's like a chain is as strong as its weakest link. If you're using some outdated, antiquated software, no one used it, it's poorly documented, so on and so forth, which unfortunately sometimes clients have that and they're like, we just can't move away from this. It makes the whole system just perform worse. So it's like, as much as you can, you want to be able to pick the tech stack and pick stuff like we know Notion's going to work well. It's a lot better than saying like, oh, do you have a software that kind of works like this that we could input it into? That's a lot more headache. It just makes it work so much better and then also lowers the complexity because it's like, we, again, just like Slack, we didn't have to develop Notion. It comes with these features that we can use right out of the box.
sure.
Awesome.
Another thing, Joe, you want to go through the products as well. I feel like that was a really cool feature you added.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll go through the products first with that, where in each of the calls, the agent dynamically identifies which of the products that are currently in your system, so you can keep track of which ones you actually want to keep track of. And then it attaches those to essentially the different calls. So you can see the totals of which ones are viewed more often, less often, and you can see the statistics there. So a good example of this is if you have one product that tends to be called about a lot because there's a problem with it, you'll notice that in the dashboard because it comes up over and over and over again. You're like, why is this one product being discussed 5 times more than some of our other ones? And it's a really good way to quickly identify those different things. And especially if you have a team with a lot of different salespeople, it can be very hard to identify that because it's not just one person who can very obviously tell that all of the single things, all of the calls are about this one thing. Instead, you have a dozens of different people, and not all of them are always communicating with each other. So having this one centralized place is very, very useful.
Yeah, I
It
mean, I think with us as
yeah,
well, like on the newsletter side of things, it would help us identify trends, for example, right? It's like over time, we have
Hmm.
different ad placements. We now sell placements for the podcast, for example. We've seen renewed interest in like our enterprise trading. So it would allow us to kind of measure over time, like what are people becoming more and less interested in, and kind of adjust our positioning instead of being like reactive. We can be proactive about that. We can see that trend as it's emerging rather than 6 months later.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. You said exactly what I was just about to say. It could be very powerful for like the leadership teams or people that do ordering and inventory. Or let's say in the case if we break it off into customer service, and like Joe said, you keep getting all these customer service calls about this specific product, there might be an issue with it. You might want to think of switching your offering, something like that, or analyze what is the problem with this item and how can we fix it. But this is, something that rather than like part of this is super useful for the sales trainer, obviously the main focus, but we've actually gotten those requests from like other leadership and like operations teams and stuff. And they're like, can you just have it tell us like what people are calling about, what products are popular right now? And yeah, you can track it over time. We could actually implement, I don't know if Joe has yet, but we could implement like a graph for that as well, where you could see like these, just like the salespeople, we could see, oh, this one's picking up a ton this month, or like this one's super down this month. So great for reporting as well.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to mention with this is the organization of the rules themselves, where this is really useful, once again, not only for the people that are working with the system. If you're changing rules and working on organize them to make them better for the system, then this is going to be incredibly useful, but also just for anybody who's actually reviewing the system. It makes it more understandable as well as the AI itself. So it's kind of threefold. Um, with the rules, we organize them into different types. And as you can see here, it's very simply just B2B and B2C for this example, although that changes for every single customer we work with, of course. And that kind of just gives a general partition of which people are in which section. So a lot of the salespeople would specifically be in B2B sales or B2C sales. That helps organizing with the people themselves and just making it more fluid. And then, as you can just see on the side here, we have different categories, which I think Jake mentioned a little bit earlier, where this helps actually organize where in the prompt they're going to go. This, once again, not only helps the user organize what they're going to do better, but the AI is able to actually understand where it applies to. So if you have rules that only apply to the intro of the call, the middle of the call, or the end of the call, then you can actually choose where those are going to be, and you're going to get drastically better results from that. Um, One other thing with this is you can actually alter these rules as they're going. So if you go through the different calls and you notice, hey, this call was rated a little bit low because of one specific rule, then it's smart to go into that rule and maybe think about adjusting that rule and changing the wording, maybe giving it more explanation. So as Jake has said, this is a 24/7 agent, and it's constantly getting better the more that people use it. So it's not just something that's static, it dynamically improves itself over time, really emphasizing the benefit of AI.
Awesome. I mean, I love it. I want it for my sales team now. um,
Let's implement, dude. Let's implement. Let's do it. You. Let's
all right, all right. I'll take it. Let me pay a small implementation fee. Don't charge me a big retainer, please. Hands are up.
$5. And then
$5.
No, this is awesome, man.
find me a new
Going back.
employee so I can fire what's her name at the top there? Was it Kent or whatever who's doing garbage? You give me Kyle, I'll give you this. That was a
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can make that swing, but we'll see. We'll see.
one last point I want to recap on this, just to kind of restate, because there's so many people, a lot of like what we're doing is like AI for sales. It's a common thing that a lot of people ask. And the things that they see online are like this influencer hype to sell these, sort of like uh rapper SaaS things of just like, oh, this AI like email spam blasts a million people. Or a lot of people might say, oh, well, what if I just set up a voice agent to just do these calls for me and then fire the sales team? One, that's illegal, at least in the US. Two, you're gonna have garbage results. We've seen people that have tried that, like, well, I just tried to use the AI to do it all and got, my sales went way down. It's like, wow, huge surprise. So this is how you would want to use it. And this is what we see with a lot of companies is that you benefit a lot from AI if you have a decent size organization. Like it doesn't have to be huge, but it's just like if you have a sales team of just maybe even 10 or 15 people minimum, because you see better efficiency gains when you're applying this to more people. If you have one salesperson, I mean, obviously you can still benefit from it, but it's like you're multiplying that times 15x if you have a much bigger one. Two, you're freeing up your sales trainer's time to coach them better, which will make your sales go up if you have a good sales coach. That's what you really want to focus on is actually improving their skills. And then three, you're paying them less to do the same thing because then they can review more calls in much less time. And then another one is that then they can spend more time selling. So those are really how we're actually seeing it. Like when people think, they see all this influencer hype, oh, the AI will be my salesperson. I have yet to see great results with that. I have seen great results when you use AI as a sales assistant and you let people do selling. So it takes out of that back end work. And the more time that you can free up, the better you can train them, the better they're going to do. And like I said, every company sees results from this one. I've never seen a company's sales get worse because they have better oversight and better training.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think let's finish up there on that one and move on to our last one.
Great. Okay.
You guys want to give me a bit of an intro and I can give some context?
Sure. So this last one, this is like our agent messaging dashboard. We started calling it off like the speed to lead agent. And this is one, again, those other two that we showed, we, have been selling them for quite a while. This one is kind of like let's say like a rebuild version of something that we used to sell a lot. And then we just found that because so many clients needed it and they would need these specific features and that I'll get into when I show it actually why this sort of dashboard works a lot better for this type of agent. So we actually did a whole rebuild on this one to sort of like modernize it and then consolidate all the clients that were on that into like our own dashboard here, which I will open up right now. Give me 1 second here. I got to find the window. Full screen.
So speed to lead, who came up with the name?
Frank, actually. Frank, actually.
Frank. That's a marketing guy that came up with that name, 100%.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. So, and that's the main thing, because kind of it's the main reason that people use this, but I'll get into like a few other use cases that they're using it for. So, I'm sure, we've seen similar apps like this, similar messaging apps. It just works really well because so the first one that we showed was like the coaching one. So that's like, let's say like employee to agent, and it's just a one-on-one chat. You don't need a lot of other involvement, whatever. The second one is a logging dashboard because we just want the agent always running and we don't need to directly chat with it. We just want it to do its job. This one is actually can be like, let's say like employee to customer or agent to customer or agent to employee, along with many other features that make this work better, which I'll get into. And that's why this sort of dashboard works a lot better. And I actually developed this using Claude Code. And we've, had great success on it. And we're able to actually move some of well, occasionally if we're, an agent's very popular, we'll sort of do this like rebuild, rebrand on it to make it work a little bit better and add some requests. So I've actually added, you can't see it here because it's not, it's a little bit different than what I'll be showing, but actually we can add more tabs here. So we had one for internal agents. So for clients that have internal agents, rather than them then going between Slack and this, it's once again easier to consolidate it all into one. So that's specifically why we use this sort of UI for this sort of agent. So this is pretty standard. Most people understand this. This is for, again, it's like an example client, the gym client. And so what we will have for a lot of clients is that they have either like a submission form on their site. Maybe they're running ads and someone fills something out. Maybe they have a marketing list. The ways that you can apply this is almost infinite. So you see your messages here. Here's what the customer says. And then the AI automatically replies. Obviously, you change what it says by changing its knowledge base, and I'll get into that as well. But the cool thing about this is that you can actually use this manually. So we can just turn the AI off, and now I can go ahead and type to the person. So if I, want to tell them something specifically, or let's say it escalates a case, then I can go ahead and reply. And I can keep this between me and the customer as long as I want. And if I don't want to be responding anymore, the conversation's over, I can flip it back to AI. So
Mm.
here's an example of if someone, so let's say I don't want it answering billing questions. A lot of people don't. A lot of times it can't. So for this, the customer says this, they're confused about a charge. Okay. They signed up, they're confused about this charge. So what the agent does is it intelligently, we tell it like what it can handle and what it cannot handle. And so then it raises this to a human's attention. So it pops to the top, shows needs attention, and it gives an explanation of why it was brought to um, the team's attention and flips it to human automatically. So the AI does not reply anymore. So it doesn't like get in this stupid like loop or something like that where it keeps saying, okay, I'll solve that for you. It doesn't really solve it, which, we wouldn't let it do anyways, but you get the point.
Wow. So let's, for example, one customer service agent can kind of oversee 10 different conversations. And when something needs attention, it'll kind of, the system will warn them. But I'm assuming you kind of set your own rules as to when it warns you, right? It's like any conversations pertaining to billing, warn me, or any conversations pertaining to supplement use, for example. We're in the gym routine right now, with this dashboards, and warn me at that point, right? So you set the rules.
Yes. Yeah. So we would give it rules on like exactly what it should raise. So this, again, even though you might use the same dashboards over various clients, like we've used this for like insurance clients. Actually, we've used it for gym clients as well. B2B SaaS clients. So it's like there's, a lot of people do customer service. It's very, very, very common, which is exactly why we put the time in to make this cool dashboard. And so, yes, you set the rules about when it should escalate. And how a lot of our clients use this is they just go to this filter, needs attention, because a lot of times they don't really care to read every conversation that the AI has. You definitely can, and they're here. You can also flag them, archive them, mark them as unread if you want someone to come back to it later, load all the messages. But a lot of times all they want to see is that needs attention. So when it gets raised to them, so it makes it very easy. You don't see all the noise, you just see what you want. And also break it down by agent. There's only one in this one. Different channels. You could use this for like SMS, email, website chats, AI or human. So if it's assigned to a human, same sort of thing. So that's the gist of how you would use it. But then there's more to add to that as well of like also our tracking and reporting here, which you could see.
Got you. So this is very much on a customer service front, right?
Yes, but also marketing, I would say, because sometimes what we have clients do is they send out campaigns, which I'll get into here in cadences, where you can tell it to kind of do different things. So again, if you have like an approved like marketing list where, kind of the main thing is that people like consented to let you text them like they are your customers, you can then send out like different marketing campaigns and stuff like that. And you can use it in a lot of different ways. So yeah, one of them would be customer service, and then one of them could also just be like, running those automated marketing campaigns. Um, I'll just shift over to that now and we can go back to analytics. But so what you can do, we use these, they're called cadences. So sometimes we use these for like follow-ups, follow-ups if someone hasn't replied, because what we'll do is like the wait time in hours, but you can also just change this and send it out as like an actual, like its own campaign. So let's say we want to assign this to an agent. We have the customer service agent, and essentially what you do, I can just create a new one here. Test. Assign it to an agent, set it as active, create cadence. So let's just say this one is let's just say they fill out a form on our site for they want like training at the gym, and the agent messages them as soon as they fill out the form. So what it's going to immediately do is just kind of like ask them about their needs, see if they're interested. Let's say if they don't reply after 12 hours, we're just going to say this, like, let's say offer them a free day pass to come check out the gym. Then we can add the step. And you can do as many steps as you want. So you can have it keep following up, only follow up a few times. And then the agent will kind of take this context and then it will know what to say to them rather than just like, hey, just following up. You can also set business hours here. So it's like, we don't want it like messaging someone at 3 a.m. or something. If, they sign up at 3 p.m., it's 12 hours. So it's just going to wait till the next day to send it. So that's one use for this, just to kind of check in. Does that all make sense, or did you have a question there? Sorry.
Yeah, what clients have you seen have the most success with this?
Specifically recently, our gym clients, we have a few of them on here, and they got a lot of members, they got a lot of people filling out their forms. Um, so I would say that's what makes it good for them, is just that they just happen to have a lot of traffic, and so the AI handling all that is a massive time saver. But it doesn't, you wouldn't have to be a gym to benefit from it. It could be, if you get a lot of submissions from your form, from your ads, and you just don't have time to follow up with everyone, yeah, this is what you need.
And if I can add on to there, it really helps specifically, once again, those gym clients, but kind of anybody, for two really big reasons, which is one, it filters out bad leads. It automatically takes care of those people that aren't going to respond to you, even if you do have a human like messaging them. So there's no point to actually wasting your time doing that. It's the agent that kind of filters out those people and moves on to those really high value prospects. And in converse to that, for those high value prospects, it hits them almost immediately with a contact. So right after they're done either filling out a form or talking to you or whichever trigger you choose to set for it, then they're immediately hearing from you, getting that recognition back in their system. And now you're in their phone as well. So it's really good for filtering out those bad clients and reinforcing those good clients both at the same time.
Sure.
Yeah, to add to that, and this is exactly why Frank has dubbed it the speed to lead agent, because in his consulting and what we see with a lot of our clients, like, let's take the gyms, for example. They just weren't following up. Like, people would fill out these interest forms and they just never got followed up with. So people are like, I'm interested in joining this gym and paying you. And unfortunately, it's like, it wasn't really, well, I guess I don't know if it's their fault or not, but it's kind of, they just didn't really have enough staff to do all this. They had, like I said, so many people coming in. And that kind of also separates it here, because kind of like you can use it for customer service, but kind of what that would be doing is almost like appointment setting. Because what we have it do for them is like it connects to their calendar. And the whole point is to, like Joe said, qualify, handle objections, and then actually book a call with them. So what the goal is then to actually get them in the gym and talking to a human, because again, humans are just, they're good at closing the sales, and you're not going to have the AI there walking around the gym to close them. So that's really kind of the point for them. So I would say that's like not really customer service exactly. It's more of like, getting their, like a booking agent essentially. So we've seen it be very good for that. And yeah, everyone gets, messaged within a minute. And that's kind of, it's not really a secret in sales. It's like a common thing. Like, it's like, if you wait 3 days to follow up with someone, they might be on the beach, they're fat and disgusting looking, and they're like, I got to get to the gym. They fill out your form online. And if you wait 3 days, then they're driving to work. They have their clothes on. They don't feel fat and disgusting anymore. And they're not really as interested. Or if you just don't follow up with them at all, they forget about it. Maybe they end up joining another gym just because it's closer to their house and you never followed up with them. So, really useful in all those different aspects.
Awesome. Awesome. And then you have an agents function on this as well.
Yes. So, yeah, one more thing to add here real quick. I'll shift over to agents too, is that, so for these, you can use them as like the follow-ups, like I said, but you could also use these as sort of like your own little like marketing campaigns. Like, you could just enroll contacts. So you could put the people in here you want it to send to, and then just
Yeah.
tell them about our new promotion, whatever it is. And you could just set one step if you don't want it to follow up. But it's like, so this is how, you can use it for customer service, marketing, booking, all those sorts of things. But yeah, over here, so this is we just kind of for like setting up the agents. This is sort of like an admin feature. So essentially what this does is this is just how I would go in and add agents here. So I'd have to do it on like an actual admin account, which this one is not. So if we're setting these up for clients, we would just go into here and this just kind of like tracks it in the database. It doesn't really necessarily do anything. It's just kind of so you can see like, hey, here's our agents that we have available. Um, and it's sort of on the back end, it all connects. You can see the knowledge base assigned to it, if it's active, what the channel is for it, which then brings me into knowledge bases. So this is how it knows what it knows. Every company is going to have different knowledge. This is, quite a common thing when you're working with AI and agents. So you can just give it all of your information here. Let me see, share this tab. So here we can view what it is. So this is like the gym specific information that we would want to know. Like here's the classes that they would have. Here's the location, the email, all this sort of stuff, the amenities and all that. So it will then know about your company in a way. And then you would want to assign this to the agent. In the agents tab, you can see which knowledge base it's assigned to. So you could have different ones. It allows you to update and change the information as well. So we can add new files in here. We can delete old ones and manage agents it's assigned to. So let's say that we had the Apex Iron chat agent, but like a website chat rather than through SMS. Well, we could also assign this knowledge base to it. So they know the same things. And when I update one, it updates the other. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And it makes it very easy for the clients because that's always one of the main, they're always like, oh, well, what if I change something? What if I add or remove classes or add or remove trainers or, this changes, whatever. Very common that people want to change this sort of thing. So we make it very easy for them.
Yeah, I mean, when I first seen this, I thought, okay, it's a great customer service agent, but seeing that it actually can convert people when someone has a lot of inbound and can't pay enough attention to it, it's a great tool. I can see why it'd be very useful.
Absolutely. And like Joe said, it's a great filter because it's like a lot of people are just not serious clients. They might fill out a form and you never hear anything from them. And sometimes I think like, why did they fill out the form anyways? So you want people who are serious and you want those to take your sort of like in-person time so you can spend more time with them rather than spending hours a day following up with people that, they're just not really good leads at all. They were never going to sign up. They weren't really that interested at all. So it acts as a great filter. And like I said, you can use booking, marketing, customer service, you can make it how you want. And another thing we do on the back end, so this doesn't show like this here is just to kind of display what agents are active. But obviously there's a lot more on the back end, which is where we actually make the agents. So we still build them custom of however they want. So it's like, the gym wants it to book in clients for training or tours or whatever. Okay, we might have different like chat routes depending on what flows they fill out. Another thing that we've done a lot with this is we hook it up to like internal triggers. So just sticking with the gym example, let's say we have some clients that the members, they didn't check in for 2 weeks, but we don't want them to churn. Okay, we're going to have this other follow-up agent that, prevents churn for those clients. So again, then client retention as well. You could also use it for list reactivation. So let's say you have all these leads and you're like, oh, I never send anything. I never do any marketing to them, but I bet if I gave them all a free pass, we would get, 10% of them to actually join the gym. You can use it for that. So on the back end, it's still custom. We still make it to do what they want, but it's very easy for them to see and hear. And a lot of times, like they'll use the same features. Like, you always want an escalation thing. You always want human in the loop. We always want to have those things. And then lastly, we also want to be able to see what it's doing. So these are custom too, like signed up for training, booked a tour, another thing might be like, booked a call, like booked a sales call, or maybe like if it's customer service issue resolved. We could also track it by the different products they talked about, like in the Notion, resolution rate. You could see the new conversations and leads over time, your escalation rate, your response time, messages sent, human versus bot messages. So yeah, we're able to see and track all of this so you can really see the performance of how it's doing. And so that's why, because this is such a popular one, as you can kind of tell, because there's so many use cases for it, makes sense to make one dashboard and then just, move people in here. And it's built for these specific kinds of things.
One thing which I really think is cool and well, just a beneficial feature about this one, more just how we built it, honestly, is that this kind of brings it to a full circle point of how we're developing it. Where the first agent we showed off, that was in a chat interface within Slack. And the second one we showed off was in a logging dashboard with Notion. But this one, being the custom, actually is both of those integrated together. So this is the most complex, kind of higher form of that, where it includes a conversational aspect, whether that's the AI or you take that over manually, but it also has all the analytics and all the settings so you can control it dynamically, similar to how it was in Notion. And once again, this is kind of that like apex point of where we're combining different technologies to really make it as custom and as user friendly as possible for the person who's going to be using it. So I think it's a great example to kind of round it off, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Where do you see, so what kind of strikes me about what you guys do is that the learnings from one project move on to another, right? You're just describing how you've got this agent that does like the training, the personalized learning, and then that's being used here, and then the dashboard in Notion, that's being used here. Like, where do you kind of see this in a couple years' time as you kind of take on more projects? You're going to learn more about how they work. Like, where does this get to? Does this get to one unified SaaS? Does this continue to be customized? Like, what is the plan here for the future? What do you kind of predict is going to be the demand as well?
I would say so there's a lot of like consulting to do with this too. And I feel like that's what a lot of people miss and what really sets us apart is just like everyone, like, their question is always, which AI should I use? How are people using AI? And there's a million platforms out there where it's just like our AI is the best. It does everything you need. It will sell all your customer. It will make your products. It will stock your inventory and tuck you into bed at night. And it's not everyone, but a lot of times it's overpromised of like, this is the most insane AI, and it's a chat GPT wrapper. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just like people get these like lofty expectations and it doesn't really work well for their use case. So what we do is we always start with the consulting of understanding their actual like business issues and seeing where should we apply AI versus where should we not. Because let's say it was you have a lead form and you get 3 submissions per month, there's just not real like, just have someone do it manually, it's not a great fit. Or let's say that you know, you don't record your sales calls or you don't have a sales team or something. That sales analysis agent is not going to be very useful for you. So I think the main thing is that at least now in its current state, I don't really believe in this like one size fits all AI stuff. I think that, where we see the most success and people saving the most time and loving the agents the most and wanting more features is when it's actually customized to a problem they couldn't solve. Like ChatGPT couldn't solve it. A general tool couldn't solve it. And they really needed like, this is our exact workflow. We need it to know this exact stuff. We need to operate this way. So I would say that there's the consulting and then kind of the custom angle. I think we'll definitely stick with those, especially like the consulting part, because for a long time, even as AI gets better, people will be wondering how to use it. And then I would say that we'll probably likely consolidate this and just have a few of these different UIs that can be used. Like, if we take what we showed you, a logging dashboard, this messaging dashboard, and then I guess another messaging one because it was coaching agent, which I kind of already integrated into here in a different tab. We consolidate that all into one UI. Pretty much all the agents can run through the UI. It makes it more streamlined, but I think we'll still stick with like the consulting because that's where we see the biggest benefit for our clients.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. I mean, I think that's what we see is that balance as well. Like, we are delivering enterprise training on AI, but people still want that human aspect. When we do sales calls, people still want to speak to human. I think that's going to stay. We want AI to do everything on the back end and pattern analysis and build us beautiful dashboards and help us identify things. But humans do want to speak to humans, so I don't think that's going to change either.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna say I totally agree on a base theory level where AI, a lot of people are trying to focus on how it's gonna like replace humans or how they want to replace like half of their job or something like that or have it do what they do. But that's not the best place for AI. The best way to use it is to enhance yourself to be able to do what humans already do better. And that's so relevant within sales and education in certain areas like that, where you can't use it to just replace your thinking. You have to use it to enhance your thinking and ideally just expand it. Give yourself more ideas, help yourself find a better direction and a better path to go down. Your question was really, really good. And I like how it focuses on the future of where we're going with it because there are a million different paths. And of course, a lot of it is kind of just rolling with the punches, figuring out the best new technologies that are coming out, and also working with the clients and figuring out what's the best technology that's going to work for them. But a lot of it, honestly, is just kind of figuring out that even middle ground where the technology is going to meet the client's needs, where it's going to meet our skill level perfectly, and finding that middle ground. So I have a good feeling that's going to end up in, as Jake said, a lot more consolidated dashboards where we make it kind of useful for any of our clients that want to roll into it. But at the same time, there's no real way to know. Everything is changing way too fast right now.
Sure. With people that want to kind of get in touch with you guys, I'll link everything down below, but how would they get in touch with you guys on a business level, on an individual level, if they want to ask questions or they're curious about building something themselves?
Honestly, email's a great way. If you want to leave my email down there, they can also check out our site if they're wondering a little bit more of like, is this a good fit for me or not? If they're specifically wondering about using custom agents, um, yeah, I would say that if you want a direct connect, just send me an email. I check it every day, or my agent does, but I'll see different ones.
All same here. Okay, I'll leave both your emails, leave the website below. Joe and Jake, I want to thank you guys and the Agentic Brain team for coming on today. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Liam. It's always a fun time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Liam. This was a great time. Always love talking about AI and nerding out with you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks.